Good morning. Sunsoft is back too. Just got streamed a few hours ago. Now, Limited Run announced Trip World DX 2 days ago, and I have a feeling that's going to be a part of what this is. But what else could there be? And like that little rainbow symbol thing there, I don't really understand what that is in comparison to like the first Sunsoft is back thing, which had a very clear Iki sprite. So let's just go ahead and see what's going on with Sunsoft. We'll admire Sunsoft's incredible VTuber that they've come up with. Okay, so they are going to discuss Trip World. So Trip World is a very cutesy Game Boy platformer that came out in Japan and in Europe, was not released in the United States. Sunsoft USA at that time had really transformed what they were localizing and ultimately decided to not publish a lot of Sunsoft's Japan's internal stuff. Okay, so there's the symbol. Instead wanting licensed titles because they felt that that would be what would sell, and they had a lot of sway at the company at that time. So games like Trip World and Gimmick and Ufouria never got to the US because they just didn't prioritize those. So Trip World DX, which is a collaborative effort between Sunsoft and Limited Run Games' Carbon Engine, will be seeing release very soon. Pre-orders start there on April 28th and go to June 9th for Switch, PS4, PS5, and Game Boy Color versions. And that's correct, you heard me right. They are making a Game Boy Color version of Trip World. Here you go. Under Sunsoft's auspices. The original director of Trip World, who was a little bit earlier, and I don't quite remember his name, is heavily involved with the project. And just it looks really, really good. Like, really, really good. Yeah. Uichi Ueda is the Sunsoft director who has had a heavy role in this reimagining of Trip World. So this is fantastic news because Trip World is a fantastic game. It's definitely become like a cult classic, and in the United States, in North America, we never got it. So it's expensive to try to import it because it's in such high demand. So a re-release is fantastic news, especially modern platforms as well as new Game Boy and Game Boy Color cartridges that Limited Run is making. I think this is just wonderful news all the way around. So we're getting some news on Gimmick. This looks like the Famicom original. And this is another situation where North America did not get this game because, as I said, Sunsoft USA was focusing on licensed titles. And this came out only in Japan and in Europe. And in Europe it came out as Mr. Gimmick. And they changed the cutesy design to be a little bit more in line with the animation styles of the day in Europe. This is probably like the pinnacle of Sunsoft's expertise on the Famicom in terms of like visual design, and it's just great to see this being remade, so to speak. And being brought to modern platforms. So we got a very, there we go, I was about to say, we got a very brief taste of what it looks like here. So it's got quick save and load. I don't remember who's bringing this one. Based on things that I'm seeing, well, this looks a little bit more, let's see, I'm trying to see. There was a brief shot in the corner of who was developing this, and then the Sunsoft VTuber showed up. So here's Ufouria. Are we getting a new Ufouria game and Kirby Epic Yarn style? Because that would be pretty amazing. That would be amazing indeed. That would be, like, incredible. Yeah, it looks like we're getting a new Ufouria Hebeneke? I think that's his Japanese name. This looks really rad, actually. I would love to see it in motion, but I'm not sure if the game's far enough along to do that. That is the end of Sunsoft is Back 2. That's really exciting. There's a Street Fighter thing happening while I'm at work today. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just add that to the end of this. Hello, we're back. Kind of odd transition from a very niche publisher into Capcom's marquee fighting game franchise, and arguably the biggest fighting game coming out this year that we know of. But that's just the way the ball bounces, since both of these happen to be in the same day. Just seems to make sense to put them together. I do see that this is an hour and a half plus change. So I'm just going to skip around, and we're going to keep this one muted because there's a higher likelihood of there being licensed music and all that fun stuff in this particular showcase in comparison to the Sunsoft one. So let's go ahead and see what's happening. So presumably we'll see some of the World Tour mode, which is what it's leading off with. So this is really fascinating to me that they're running with the Street Fighter Alpha 3 World Tour mode, but they're making it a create a character situation instead. And it's an open world, sort of, as best as I can tell. And you're going to travel the world to various cities, probably where the stages take place in the game, and be able to develop your character and learn moves from the other Street Fighter characters that appear in the game. It's pretty cool. I think it's really cool. And it's one of the things that excites me the most about Street Fighter 6. And you can be goofy with it too if you wish. Which I think is awesome. If you just want to really play up like the more radical character archetypes, you can in this game. And you have a rival, this character here, who is currently not playable in Street Fighter 6, but I suspect, given their importance in the story mode, that they might have some ability to be played, because it looks like it's the same character all the time. So yeah, this is a bit more than we've seen so far in terms of the World Tour mode. So you definitely get some customization on your clothes, and you just get to walk up to random people who want to fight, and off you go. Which I think is pretty neat. And then you get to learn how the game works through this process. And I bet you'll get to develop what your character's taunts and win animations and all that stuff. Hopefully that has some versatility to it. You're not just stuck with some canned ones. Or the one, like stealing the ones from the Street Fighter characters. And the neat thing is it seems like you can just kind of throw down anywhere in the open world. And it just kind of creates a 2D stage for you. And you get rewards and leveling up. So it's pretty rad, honestly, how they're implementing the system. Because you're basically using the combat system, and there's the customization, so you can design what your character looks like within the parameters of the game's clothing options, which this screams DLC more than anything I think I've ever seen in my life. Apparently you can buy food that recovers your vitality. So as you go along, I guess you don't heal. That's kind of interesting. You can use them at any time. So if you're close to finishing out a match and you don't want to lose it, just open up that item menu. And then as the game goes along, you'll get more story with the Street Fighter 6 characters and the opportunity to learn from them. I think that's great that they're still using the really defined style of Street Fighter 6. And then there's missions that you can do. You've got a phone, you can check out all this stuff. You win Zinni. Glad that Capcom kept the currency. And you can become a student of one of the characters, so that's how that works. And then there's just stuff that you can find. There's balloons that you can break with the techniques you learn. So you explore using fighting game moves, and then you can choose to not encounter Mad Gear characters, which I think is neat that they're bringing the Mad Gear into it a little bit more heavily than they have in the past. And they're pretty persistent. Like, they're chasing you for a long time. And it looks like you just kind of get like a huge arsenal. You like master actions. And you can fight multiple opponents, which is something that I don't think has really been shown off too much. I'm sure it was in a trailer. Like, very briefly. And then more can come in as you defeat them. So this looks pretty fleshed out in terms of, like, what this mode is, which is shocking. We haven't had, like, anything remotely like this in a Street Fighter game since Alpha 3, and it didn't have this open world, fluid structure that you could just go around and meet people. It was all kind of predestined in a way. You took paths. And there's Chun-Li's student, Li Fen, who I suspect might be playable as well, much like the rival character. They put a lot of effort into designing how she looks, to not use her more than just a cutscene. This looks so stylized. It looks fantastic. And you can give gifts? That's interesting. Okay, so this is kind of how this works. So you can actually like really mimic a character with a lot of flexibility in how you choose to mimic. That's really cool. And then you can mix and match moves together to kind of establish how you interact. You get skills. I'm pretty hyped for this. This is pretty exciting. And then you can move your way up. And as you gain wins, it looks like, I'm guessing that's what those trophies mean. You can continue to unlock more stuff, and then you can get more special moves. And apparently you can call in other Street Fighter characters. Oh, this is so cool. I am so stoked to see how this works. So cool. Yeah, I think this looks fantastic. I'm very excited to learn more about how this mode works. Lions chilling in the background. It's like this character... Oh, it's Carlos! Holy shit, they put Carlos from Final Fight 2 in this game? They've got to have some of these characters as DLC at some point. They got to be more than just story mode characters. Because Damned is here, Carlos is here, Li Fei. Rudra. So yeah, there's got to be, like, these got to be characters that they're going to consider adding at some point. I would think. Because Carlos had a unique sword-based moveset. Ah, this is so cool. And you get different clothes depending on where you're at. Different food. Wow. I'm impressed. You can find fridges. And there's bonus games, so you get to fight a diesel truck. Oh, you get to play basketball. Oh, look at this art. Look at this art. Street Fighter 6 has the best art style this series has had in so long. You get character guides that are pretty in-depth. Let's see what they're adding into the game in terms of characters. So Rashid, Aki, Ed, for some reason, Akuma, our initial 4 DLC characters. And they're pretty spread out. So it looks like a character a season. So there we go. I imagine the Ultimate Edition costs quite a bit more, but I haven't actually seen a physical for that. I know that the Deluxe is like 90 versus the 70 the regular one's going for. Which probably saves you a little bit on the pass. So I'm really hyped for Street Fighter 6. I think that it is easily the most excited I've been for a Street Fighter game since Street Fighter Alpha 3. which is my favorite Street Fighter game to this day. 4 didn't do a whole lot for me. I never got a chance to play 5, but 5 had quite the colossal amount of screw-ups along its development and release and early post-game content that it took 5 full seasons and 7 years to counter that. And now it's a pretty good game, I guess, but I think I'm pretty content just bypassing 5 and going straight to 6, because I like the art style of 6 so much more than 4 and 5. This game has confidence, it has swagger, and I feel like 4 had a bit of that, but the art style wasn't there for me, and 5 just felt like it was a bit of a lost sheep for a long time. Flavia agrees. Flavia agrees with me very much. Well, that is a twofer of reactions for you, all of which were pretty awesome. We'll go ahead and end it here. Thank you for watching. We'll be back in the near future with a Levels Plus whenever. Take care, friends.